So we have now the candidates for the Tamalpais Union High School District. There are 3 seats open and 5 candidates running. They will have 2.5 minutes for opening statements, and we'll start with Laura Herbert Anderson. Laura?
Thank you, Redwoods and League of Women Voters, for hosting this forum, and all of you for coming. My name is Laura Anderson. I grew up in Minneapolis, where I attended public schools with my 3 siblings. After earning a BA in economics from Carleton College, I worked for 7 years in the financial services industry. While my husband, a UCSF professor and diabetes scientist, pursued his career, I began my most important role, that of mother to our 3 children. My son graduated from Redwood last year, and my 2 daughters are there right now. They are my pride and joy. 10 years ago, we moved from Boston to Larkspur. After searching all over the Bay Area for a home, we chose Marin, primarily for its stellar public schools. Our 3 children have been inspired by outstanding teachers and stimulating learning environments, such as those found at all 5 high schools in the district. Since moving to California, I have been actively involved in the schools. 2 years ago, I co-chaired the successful TAM Union Parcel Tax Renewal Campaign. Despite a recession, we won with an impressive 73% yes vote. I fully appreciate how hard it was to secure that $9 million a year for the district, and recognize that our community resources are precious. Prior to that campaign, I was PTA president at Neil Cummins Elementary School. At Hall Middle School, I served on site council and the PTA board. Currently, I co-chair the Redwood Foundation's allocation committee and am treasurer of the Redwood Music Boosters. In every role, I have focused on what's best for students, balanced tight budgets, worked hard, and collaborated with my colleagues. I've also reaffirmed my commitment to quality public schools. My leadership experience, work ethic, and passion for public education qualify me for this role. My job as parent of currently enrolled students would add a valuable parent's perspective to the governance team. As a trustee, I would leverage my finance background to promote responsible fiscal management. I am also committed to ensuring that we have effective two-way communication with all stakeholders, and most importantly, that all students in the district receive an excellent education that prepares them for fulfilling life beyond high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. The next candidate is Chuck Ford.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the Redwoods for hosting this. My name is Chuck Ford. I moved out here to Marin County. I grew up in the city, but I moved out to Marin County in 1973 with my wife, the love of my life, and we've been married for 46 years and my 2 children. I'd like to say, like Laura, I moved for the schools, but to be honest, we moved because it was cheap and affordable. Those days are gone. But the schools were a huge bonus. My oldest, Peter, now 45, has Fragile X syndrome. He's developmentally disabled. He will never be able to read or write. My youngest, Ethan, is 43, went through Lagunitas School, Sir Francis Drake High School, University of California, got his PhD in genetics at Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, did his postdoctoral work at MIT. Both of them were very well served by our schools. But it has also given me a perspective as a parent of the needs of very high-end students and the needs of very low-end students. I was on the Lagunitas School Board from 1979 through 1983. At that time, I was a commercial photographer specializing in architectural illustration. I became a high school teacher 21 years ago. Part of that came from raising children, part of that came from other experiences I had working as a volunteer with the Sierra Club in their inner city outings program. But for the past 21 years, I've worked in the district. I've run a program called the Team Program at Tamalpais High School. I think it's given me an inside view of how the district operates. I retired in June. I still wanted to continue to serve our community and particularly serve the children of our community. And the coming onto the school board seemed to be a logical step. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next candidate is Nancy Malcolm.
Dear Marin County League of Women Voters, Redwood residents, parents, and members of the public. However, first, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Redwoods for hosting this forum. I'm Nancy Malcolm. Why do I want to sit on the Tamalpais High School Board? I'm a candidate because I want to be the change in the world and our community that I wish to see. I bring firsthand experience and day-to-day knowledge of how schools actually function, having been a secretary at Redwood High School in the counseling office for 15 years. I worked in the district for a total of 17 years, and I just retired June 28th. However, I not only worked at Redwood High School, I also volunteered for the leadership and vision committees for many years. Community is paramount to me. I've lived in Corte Madera and Mill Valley first for over 25 years. I'm a San Franciscan native, and then we moved to Marin County. I currently volunteer at Hillside Church in Corte Madera, providing food to the homeless and needy families through shelters in San Rafael. I also volunteer at Sausalito Dog Park. I believe the board has lost connection with its source, parents, students, teachers, community, and staff. I've watched the input of these voices reduce the last few years. Communication needs to be increased between these groups, not decreased. I believe summer school should be reinstated and that the district's budget can easily support this expense. I believe the summer school should be reinstated and that the district's budget can easily support this expense. I believe the district's curriculum should be expanded to create more elective class choices for students. I believe the district should consider enhancing the Signs of Suicide program by including junior and senior evaluations. The district needs to maintain a balanced budget. However, I've watched the district increase its large reserve year after year, saving for the future. I say the future is here now. Let's not sacrifice our current student needs for the possible needs of future students. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Sheri Mowbray.
Good evening. I'm Sheri Mowbray, and I'm honored to be here tonight. I'm very grateful to the Redwoods for inviting us and to the League of Women Voters for helping facilitate the forum. I also really admire everyone who's here and cares about local government, because local government really does matter. And it's what we can touch ourselves. Here, all the stuff going on in Washington feels so far away, but this is very real. So thank you for being here. I'm running for a seat on the Tamalpais Union High School District Board, primarily because I really have a deep-seated passion for public education and about all kids in our community. I think we are exceptionally lucky to have such an outstanding high school district in our community in order to serve our students. My desire is to help continue that path of excellence as we move further into the 21st century. I myself am a Marin native and a product of public schools. I grew up in San Rafael, graduated from Terra Linda High School, then went on to UCLA, and I believe that public schools are the very essence of what we are as a society. I have actually served on the Larkspur-Corte Madera School Board for the past 6 years. I still serve, and I'm currently serving as the board president, which I have done for the last 2 years. School governance is very complex. There are many legal processes, there are protocols, there is lingo, there's a lot to learn. And so I feel like the experience I've had very recently serving on the school board will make it easier for me to transition into a role, hopefully, on the Tam Union High School District Board. In addition to being a trustee, I also run a marketing firm here locally in Corte Madera with my husband. My role is that of CFO as well as the Human Resources Director, and both of those are skill sets that are really important as a trustee, because the board is certainly responsible for overseeing the budget and also overseeing personnel matters. I have a lot of experience in those issues, both in the governance team that I'm currently on, as well as professionally. My most important job, though, is that of being a mom. I have twin daughters who are freshmen at Redwood this year, and I really think it's critical for school boards to have parents of currently enrolled students serving on the board. We get a very real perspective for what's going on in the classroom every day as our children come home, and we can also be accessible to other parents for input. I look forward to serving the TAM district as your trustee, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And Zev Rattet is the last candidate.
Okay. My name is Zev Rattet. I'm guessing I'm the only Zev you've ever met. I moved to Marin in 1976 as a single father with a 9-year-old daughter. I wanted a place that was safe, that was clean, and had great schools. That was Marin then, and that's Marin now. We have the great fortune in our district to have excellent teachers and staff, and a parent community that has always stepped up to contribute where and when needed. I am running for a board seat to make a contribution where I have the skills and the temperament. I want to ensure our continued dedication to academic excellence and individual attention to each and every student. I served 4 years on the Ross Valley School District Board of Trustees. RVSD serves 2,000 students, is comprised of 5 different schools, and includes 2 cities, each of which has its own distinct character. During my tenure on the board, I was charged with overseeing our bond construction projects. I was board president during the year that a charter school proposal came before us. I managed this process to allow everyone to put their ideas forward in a thoroughly deliberative and inclusive process. The final board vote was split, but we made it collaboratively and respectfully, and we all stood behind the decision. In fact, fellow trustees who voted on the other side of this issue are included in my endorsements. Prior to serving on the Board of Trustees, I spent 2 years on the Brookside Site Council, helped to set up the first computer lab in Brookside School, and was a classroom volunteer for several years. I worked on the TAM District 2002 Facilities Bond Campaign. I've been the president of a computer software company and the vice president of finance and administration for a computer hardware company. I developed a multimedia program to reduce teen driving accidents. I have lived and worked in Marin for 37 years. My wife and I raised a son who went to school in the Ross Valley and TAM school districts. I am a good listener. I am calm and deliberate. I'm a common sense decision maker who believes in achieving the greatest amount of consensus possible in any decision. And I would certainly appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Now we get into the question answering part of the program. Claudia has a microphone, and we'll invite you to raise your hands so she can take the microphone to you, and then the candidates will each answer the question. We'll start with Chuck. Will be the first one to respond.
Okay, could you tell us what you consider the main challenges facing the school board that you would contend with if elected? Thank you.
Well, there's one obvious huge challenge, and that is an increase in enrollment in the district. There are currently about 4,000 students enrolled, and over the next 5 years, it's going to go up to 5,000. TAM High is actually going to have more students in 5 years than Redwood does. So accommodating, that huge increase is going to be a real challenge. One significant thing we need to understand is that the schools do not get more money per pupil as enrollment goes up. The funding we get is based purely on almost purely on property tax revenue, and it's highly unlikely that property tax revenue is going to increase at the same rate that student population is going to increase. So that's our big issue.
Thank you, Chuck. Nancy?
I'd say yes, that's probably one of the primary. I'd say yes. That's one of the main concerns of the district, the increase in enrollment that's going to happen over the next 5 years. One of the things that may help us is we're going to be getting more students in, but we see the numbers from the middle schools and the grammar schools, so we can project what's coming down the path to us. And we are going to be losing our adult education program at Redwood By state law, it's going to eventually go over to the community college. At least so that should open up some space. But we are not going to have any more students than we have already had in our district. So we're kind of going to be learning from the past and how we dealt with it then.
Thank you. Sheri.
So both of my colleagues said there's no question that the growth is the biggest issue that the district is going to be contending with over the next 5 years. So there's going to have to be some real rolling up of sleeves and digging into the budget and figuring out where we can find the money to be able to accommodate hiring more teachers, which we're going to need to do in order to keep class sizes from growing. And I think that is clearly the most major challenge. Just to bring up one other challenge that is something I'm concerned about and something you've probably read about is that the drug and alcohol consumption rates in our high schools are really extraordinarily high. Scary, the things that we're reading about and that are going on. And actually the rates are nearly double the state average here. So that is a really significant concern of mine, and it's one that I think the board is going to need to continue. They already are turning their attention to that issue, but I think there's a lot more attention that we can put there.
Thank you. Zev?
Well, certainly the burgeoning growth is probably the most obvious issue directly in front of us at the moment. Clearly, if we're going to have a limited ability to increase our tax revenues through our real estate taxes, that really puts a big pressure on the idea that we ought to be maintaining that reserve that we've been building up so carefully. Clearly, if we have more students in our classroom, we are going to have larger class sizes unless we accommodate with more teachers. But then again, we can only add as many teachers as we have physical space. So we're going to have to deal with this as a real challenge. And as I think Sheri said, you roll your sleeves up and you try to figure out case by case what are the things we can do to accommodate this growth as it occurs.
Thank you. Laura?
I get to be last, so I don't know what to add that the 4 other candidates haven't already said, except for that as we roll up our sleeves, we as a governance team need to make sure that whatever tough decisions we make in terms of the budget, like what we might need to cut to accommodate the additional teaching staff and support staff that we'll need for all those additional students, we need to make sure as a team of 5 that we are aligning the district's mission and priorities with our budget decisions. That's something that we always have to keep in mind. I'd also like to say that I think as a board we will look at how to share resources and how to be the most efficient and effective board we can be.
Thank you. Next question.
Hello, I'm a parent of 2 at Redwood, and I have one who just graduated, a freshman in college. I have 2 separate questions related one to the other. One is kind of the check and balances between the board and the superintendent. If you are going to be a yes man, yes woman, or you're going to stand your ground to represent teachers, non-teaching staff, and parents. In the last several years, I've noticed Superintendent Kimbrell going ahead no matter what, and we had the team fiasco last year. I could not believe that she tried to actually take down team, and by the way, my kids did not do the team. The Mandarin issue at TAM, why they took down Mandarin at TAM and was clearly against the decision of many parents, and other issues that seems to be lowering the standards. At least at Redwood, they're taking down honor courses, AP classes, admission requirements are being really reduced dramatically, all in the name of this bridging the gap that seems to be making everybody dumber instead of making the slower kids perform better. I see this extremely commitment to make that happen.
I think they have the gist of what you're getting at.
My question, I'd like to explain so they know where I'm getting to. Please be patient. So I'm saying those decisions are going to be taken by the board and the superintendent will implement them, or you're going to do what the current board has been doing, simply say yes all the time.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, you're the first one to handle that.
I'm putting the mic very close to my mouth. Yes, I will challenge the superintendent on issues that I do not agree with. And I do not agree with some of the things that have been happening the last few years at Redwood. That's one of the reasons that I stepped up to sit on the board. However, some of the things that she is implementing are working. So, but am I afraid to speak up? No. That's why I'm sitting up here.
Thank you. Sheri.
Thank you. Those are a lot of questions. I tried to write them down. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them all, but it is the board's responsibility to ask questions. That's the board's role. The board's role is not to do the work. The board's role is not to run the district. The board's role is to make sure the district is well run. And the way the board does that is by hiring and working with a superintendent. And together as a governance team, the Board of Trustees and the superintendent work together as a governance team of 6. And that does not mean anyone's rubber stamping anyone. It just means that everyone needs to collaborate. So the superintendent would need to listen to the concerns of any and all board members so that anything that we're all doing along the same path. But there's a fine line between what's administrative prerogative and board prerogative. So, you know, you've mentioned things that sort of fall into both categories. I think that's the best I can answer in 1 minute.
Okay. Zev.
I think there's some confusion about the relationship between the book. I'm sorry. I think there's some confusion between the relationship between the board and the superintendent. The board hires the superintendent. The superintendent works for the board. The superintendent participates in the decisions that are made in consultation with the board. There's no such thing as rubber stamping the superintendent. The board is part of the governance team, but it is the leading component of the governance team. Now, apart from that, I can't get into all the individual things that you've been pointing out that you're unhappy with that's going on at Redwood High School in particular, but I have to say that I fundamentally disagree that Redwood is going downhill. I think Redwood is an excellent school with excellent teaching staff, and I think it's actually quite well run. When I sit on the board, if I sit on the board, when any of us sit on the board, we will take the time to look at each issue as it comes before us. We'll make thoughtful, rational decisions about what direction the district should take, and the superintendent will cooperate with that because she's part of the decision-making process. And as I said, she works for the board.
Thank you. Laura.
Thank you for your question. I do have a freshman in college, so I've had a little bit of time to reflect on how well he's prepared from the district, and he's having a good time at college right now. And I feel that the district has, the way the governance team is set up is so that we have a lot of checks and balances. I don't think any of the three of us are going to be elected to this board. It's the first time in 12 years that we've had a contested election. None of us hired the sitting superintendent. So we have a fresh perspective. We don't come in with any, well, I'm going to say I don't come in with any agendas or baggage, and I will do my best to evaluate as fairly and thoroughly as possible whatever comes across my desk. I think we will work together as a team to make sure that we're all on the right path and following the district's mission and priorities.
Thank you. Chuck.
The role of the board is to set broad policy, and the role of the superintendent is to fulfill that policy. It is not the role of the board to micromanage the schools. That you just end up with a very difficult situation for all parties concerned. Having said that, this is now the third forum I've been with the other candidates, and what I can tell you is that I don't think any of us is going to be a rubber stamp. We've expressed, our knowledge of what's going on, and I see, that this group of candidates is a very strong group. It will not be just rubber stamping any superintendent. Finally, as having been on a board before I was a teacher, I can tell you I can ask much better questions now this second time around.
Thank you. Because this is a larger panel than the previous one, we're going to have to get into the closing statements, which are a minute and a half each, and we'll start with Zev.
I'm close, I swear. Our schools exist to provide the education and tools our children need to become happy, successful citizens. Teachers, administrators, support staff, parents, and the community at large all work together towards this goal. Every stakeholder's voice should be heard before any decision is taken, but all decisions must be based upon what is best for all children and that ensure that we use our limited resources fairly and equitably. We must always respect the professionals charged with executing our goals and the parents whose children we serve. We should never forget that there's always more than one right way to do anything. I am particularly proud of the endorsement from Pat Davis, a former superintendent for Ross Valley. By the way, Ross Valley is Fairfax and San Anselmo. And she said, "When I was superintendent of the Ross Valley School District, Zev Rattet served on the board. He was an outstanding board member. He studied the issues and asked great questions, worked well with others, and always listened to the ideas and concerns of staff, parents, and community members. Zev was committed to improving programs for all children, but only to making changes if changes were warranted. Zev understood his role as a board member, and he had no hidden agendas. You could count on Zev to deal directly and truthfully with you when you had concerns. Zev is the kind of person you want to serve. Without hesitation, I strongly endorse him as a candidate for the Tamalpais School Board. That's the kind of board member I will be if elected."
Thank you. Sheri?
Okay, in closing, I hope that I have shown that I have a great depth of understanding and knowledge about public school governance, and that I have a genuine passion about kids and education. I am aware of some issues in the district, such as communication, which we haven't even touched on, but there have been some expressed concerns about the level of communication both ways that I think needs to be addressed, and I would be very eager to work on that. I also think, as I've said, that I think it's imperative that the district focus on the disturbingly high alcohol and drug consumption figures, and implementing a new curriculum, which we also haven't talked about, the Common Core state standards, which are coming next year. The implementation is a big process that is going to bear a lot of work. I'm the parent of 2 freshman girls. I think it is absolutely imperative that the board's membership include parent members. Parents are the ones with a front row seat as to what is really happening in our high schools. We obviously have the most to gain and the most to lose with regard to the functionality of our high school and the direction of the district. The only parent member of the TAM District's current board will be leaving after this year, so I really hope you'll give special consideration to those of us who actually have children in the district. I'm very proud of the many endorsements that I've earned, including Congressman Jared Huffman, Assemblymember Mark Levine, more than 45 current and former trustees of the TAM Union High School District and the 9 feeder districts into the TAM District Board. And I'd like to just thank all of you for being here. Thanks to the Redwoods League of Women Voters. Really appreciate having had the opportunity to be here tonight, and I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
Again, I thank the League of Women Voters and the Redwoods for hosting this forum. I thank you, the audience, for taking time out of your busy lives to attend this event and to vote. I thank the other candidates for their participation and professionalism through this election. The board envisions and creates the direction the district will take during our present and future. I realize that an envisioned plan doesn't always agree with the reality of implementation. As a board member, I believe my 17 years of high school experience will serve me well because I have the practical knowledge, day-to-day experience, and foresight to implement and match the board's vision with the district's mission statement. As a board member, I would work towards reinstatement of summer school and expanding the curriculum to create more elective and fine arts classes while maintaining a balanced budget. Enhance the Signs of Suicide program to include junior and senior evaluations. Increase communication between board members, students, parents, teachers, community, and staff. I know it takes an entire community to keep our children on the path of growth. By reconnecting and expanding communication with our students, parents, teachers, community, and staff members, we can ensure a bright future for our youth. I, Nancy Malcolm, would consider it an honor to serve as a board member for the Tamalpais Union High School District. Please vote for me on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck.
Well, thank you for thank you for being here tonight. For the past 46 years, I have dedicated a significant part of my life to the lives of our children. As a parent, as a school board member, PTA, coach, inter-city outings leader, teacher for 21 years, during which time I won 3 Golden Bell Awards from the Marin County School Boards Association, 1 for Outstanding Program, 2 for Outstanding Teacher, and I was the TAM District Teacher of the Year in 2001, I think. So this, this is a next step in this journey for me. There are a number of things. I'd like to do while I'm on the board. One is to raise the level of staff morale and confidence in the board and administration, which right now is at a 30-year low. Only 22% of teachers are satisfied with the climate in or the direction of the district, and only 16% are satisfied with the administration. Provide more out-of-the-classroom experiences for students. I think this is crucial. It's not cheap, but if done well, it is transformative for students. And finally, given the amount of time Annie's giving me here, I want to address the issue of low performance of boys, which I think has huge implications for us as a society. It isn't strictly limited to the TAM district, but this is something we can do. This is something we can do here, and we can do it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Laura.
Can you hear me? Okay. Lower. Can't make everybody happy. Are you timing me? Okay, okay. After talking to voters at coffees, festivals, and the grocery store, I have heard that for the most part, people are very happy with the 5 schools in the district. No wonder why enrollment is increasing. Our stellar public schools continue to attract homeowners to Marin, just as they did me 10 years ago. Thank you to all of you who have supported the schools throughout the years. It has been a group effort. Good schools and healthy, vibrant communities go hand in hand. I want all district students to have positive connections with outstanding teachers, feel safe in their learning environment, and graduate with strong 21st century learning skills. I want them to be, like me, lifelong learners engaged in their communities. We need a balanced school board comprised of qualified, independent thinkers who will ask questions, listen to answers, build consensus on tough issues, and keep the focus on the learning and achievement of all students. My education, professional background, leadership experience, passion for public schools, and role as mom of current students inspired me to run for a seat on this board. I would be honored to be a member of the TAM Union governance team. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your participation.